Okay, yeah, so what we have shown in the last session, can anybody please summarize it for me? Hello. Hello, what is modern serializers? API view sets and router. Okay, Ashish. What is model serializer? Hello guys, what is model serializer? What is model serializer? Okay, what is API view sets? Am I still audible? Hello.
Hello,
Yeah, yeah, Ashish.
sir. API view sets is a collection of HTTP methods.
Hmm.
For example, get, put, update, list, and partial update.
Okay, what are the methods or functions we can define for the HTTP methods? What is the method or function is for get function? Sorry, get method. Okay,
List.
Vivek. List. And what if I have to fetch a single record? Then
Partial update.
no, I want to fetch a single record. It's a get request. Okay, it should be a retrieve function, right? It will take argument self request and third argument as a primary key of that particular object. Okay, then what is for delete? What is the function for HTTP method delete?
Destroys.
Destroy. Okay, what parameters it will take?
Self. Then a primary key will be passed and a request.
Right. And what is for put and patch?
Update and partial
Okay,
update.
Suraj. Partial update and partial update. So have you guys done the assignment? Okay. So what was the assignment? The first one was create a partial update function, and second one is create a destroy function. So let's summarize what we have saw in the last session. First, we build a blog view set, which will be extended from viewset.viewset. Okay. Then what we did, we created list. We created a list method, which will be served as a HTTP get method, which will serve to HTTP get method, but it will provide a whole object list. So it will take self and request as a parameter. Then we have to define a serializer class, right? Then after defining a serializer class, we have to pass our query set object, and we have to define many is equal to true. Is anyone remember why we have passed this many is equal to true?
To iterate to the queries itself.
Right, Vivek. to iterate a query set. So it will not expect a single object. It will accept a multiple objects, which is query set. So then we have written a response, which is a serializer response. From where we can get the serializer response, it is stored in the object called data, which is also object of serializer. So the output will be serializer dot data, which will provide a whole list of blog objects. Okay, then if we want to fetch a single record, for example, let's say you have to fetch this blog title 3, then you have to write a retrieve function, which will take 2 parameters. First one is self, second one is request, third one is your primary key. The same thing we did in the list function. We have to pass a serializer class. We have to define a serializer class. Then we have to pass the query set to the serializer. But in the retrieve function, we are trying to get a single object from the query set. So we know if we use the get method, it will throw an exception. To overcome from that exception, we have used the get object or 404. So what it will do, if the object is present in the database, then it will provide a blog object. Otherwise, it will provide a 404 object. We have extended this method from the generic view of, generics package from the REST framework. There is one more get object of 404, which will be extended by the Django, but it will provide a 404 page instead of HTTP method. So that's why we have to import it from the REST framework, because it will provide an HTTP response with the 404. So we have imported it from the REST framework.generics. We have to pass the query set, entire query set, and the primary key, which we want to get as an object. Then what we did, we passed that single object to the serializer, and in the response, we have passed the serializer response. Same goes for the create, but in the create, what we did, we have passed the submitted data to the serializer class. Earlier, what we have seen, we have to pass the objects or query set to the serializers. Now we have to pass the submitted data from the client side. So we have to define that it is a data which is submitted by the client. So treat it as a new data. So we have to define this data attribute or a data key, and then assign the value which is stored in the request.data object. Then we have to pass the serializer. Then we have to validate the serializer class. What is valid does. So it will check your validation errors. For example, you have a unique values in your model file because we are using the model serializers. So it will extend the model class. Okay, so if you have anything, let's say you have a unique values, or you have a one-to-many connection, or you have a max length of 255. So if any of these conditions get exceeded by the user input, so it will provide, or it will raise an exception. So that's why we have to define is valid serializer, serializer dot is valid. And if the exception is raised, so we have to make it true. By default, it is false, and you will get an Django error. Okay, then we have to save the serializer. The serializer.save method will actually save your model file. Okay, model object. Then we have to pass the response, which is newly created data. Same goes for the update. The difference is we have to pass the query set. We have to pass the object as well as the data. In the partial update, the update function and partial update function is exact similar, but the only change is partial is equal to true. So what this partial is equal to true means, we have saw that in the put method, in the patch method. Can anybody please tell me what is partial is equal to true?
It allows us to update partial data.
Right. For example, if someone is just trying to update a title from the blog, so it won't run the validation for the description as well as for the date. Okay, so then what we did, we have again run the serializer is valid function, and if the error exception is raised, then we have to make it as a true. Same goes for the destroy function. Destroy function will also take 3 arguments. One is send, second one is request, third one is your primary key. Then again, we have to make a get object of 404 request. We have to pass the query set object or query set data to the 404 get object of 404 function. Then again, we have to define the primary key. After getting a data, we have to just simply make a delete request. After deleting a data, we cannot just pass the previous data to the output function. So we have to make it status is equal to true. Let's go into the serializers. So what we did in the model serializer, in the model serializers, we have to define one class which is meta class. So can anybody please tell me what is meta class?
Contains information about parent class.
Okay, right. So we have to define a model name within the meta class. Then we have to define the fields name. So if you have a multiple fields, you can define it in your fields object or fields list, and then you have to pass your model name in the model variable. So this is how we define the model serializers, and this is how we define view sets. Okay, so
Sir,
have
what
you
will
guys-
be, sir, what will be definition of model serializer?
what will be the definition of model
Model
serializer?
serializer.
Okay, it is the same. It will extend the basic class of your serializer, but provide an additional functionality to extend the functionality of your model. So you don't have to define an individual attribute for your fields, for your validations. Whatever you have written in the model file, it will extend everything from that. Okay, this
Okay,
is
sir.
not the exact definition which you will find on the internet. So this is just in my words.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so have you guys checked the documentation? I have asked you to go through with the authorization and the permission classes. Sorry, authentication and permission classes. Does anyone get any chance to view this for documentation? Okay, Vivek. What about the others? Okay, Roshan. So I think you have not visited a documentation. So don't worry. Can anybody please tell me what is model view set? We have not defined or implemented it, but any guess what should be a model view set?
I think, sir, it will be having a predefined classes in it, in which we can use it. Since here we are defining a particularly making a small API, but if there are more fields in our API, then we can use the generic types of classes which are available in model view set.
Okay, I have one question, Roshan.
Hmm.
We are going to define a model serializers for the model view set. So
Okay.
basically, we are going to create a field list which is present in our model file. Okay, in our model file or in the model class.
Okay.
So how it is different from the API view set and model view set? Sorry, API view and API model view set. Because we are following the same procedure for API view set, and API model view set. So what should be the difference? Okay, let me tell you one thing. In the API view set, we have to define the list, retrieve, create, update, partial update, and destroy function. If I delete the destroy function and go back to our browser,
So delete method will be not there.
yeah, delete method will be not in the allow method list.
Yeah, it will
Same
be.
goes for the partial up. Okay, same goes for the update and partial update. So if I just comment this and go back to our browser,
So
you will
put
see
and
we
fetch
only
will be
have,
also.
yeah. So we don't need to define these functions or HTTP functions in the model view set. what we have to do, we have to just define a serializer class
Okay.
and query set. That's it. It will create your functions, which are the basic CRUD operations. One is for list, retrieve, create, update, partial update, and destroy. And again, we don't need to provide a single individual
URLs.
URLs for the model view set or for our API endpoint. So this is the main difference. We don't need to write the additional code to make our API to perform a basic operations. Which are those basic operations? Create, read, update, delete,
Update
which
and
is
include operation.
CRUD operations. So we don't need to write this code for a single model. Okay, let me clear you one thing. The API view sets, model view sets are totally depend on your serializers file. So if you can modify this serializer file in that way that it can accept the multiple models, then it will be fine. Otherwise, if you have to deal with the multiple models, I will suggest you to go with the
Model
API
view.
views.
Model. Okay.
Okay, so if you are dealing with the multiple models, for example, you have a model, you have a condition where you have to update a multiple model file or model classes. Let's say you have a user profile and user object. So if you have to update these two model files at one single operation, then I'll suggest you to go with the API view because
Okay.
it's a complicated operation to perform in a API view as well as in the model view set. We can do that, but for as a fresher or let's say you are just a beginner for the REST framework, it won't be easy task for you to just simply make a serializer file in that way that it can accept a multiple models, or you can modify a basic serializer. It is not a quite easy task. So that way, if you want to use a multiple model file, go with the API views. Otherwise, API view set and model view set. Okay, so let's build a model view set. So what is model view sets? It's a general, okay, we have discussed this. API view set and model view set both perform a full operation. How to identify which to use at which situation. Okay, Vivek, for example, you have a authentication functionality. Okay, which API function or class-based function you are going to use. You have to perform an authentication. You have to log in a user within your profile, within your API. So which API view you are going to use? Is it API view, API view set, or model view set? API view. Can you explain why you are choosing API view? Yeah,
Sir,
Ashish.
please repeat question.
Okay, for example, you are going to perform an authentication of user within your APIs. So which API view you are going to use, which class view you are going to use. Either it's an API view, API view set, or model view set. We build a concepts other from basic code like complex and API view. So I thought so. Okay, Vivek, what about the others? What do you guys think? What it should be?
I think API view set will be better.
API view set. Okay, Roshan. So it should be a API view set because it's my preference. So if you are going to use API view, it's your preference. Same goes for the API views and model view sets. If you want to have a bit of changes in your serializer, so you can use it for the model view set. Otherwise, you have to make a big changes in your views, so you can use the API view set. You want a complex operation to be performed, then you are going to use the API views. So it's totally depend on your preferences, what API, what class view you are going to use. So it's not like the API view sets are not good or model view sets are best or API views are just for the complex operation. It totally depends on your preference, how you want to build your APIs. Okay, Vivek?
Sir, my question was actually like API view set and model view set. Like, where do we use which one? Like, both are for crude operations.
Okay.
Both are a bit simpler
Okay,
than API.
got your question. So let's say you want to build a quick API. So the model view sets are perfect. And if you want to create just a list and retry function, you don't want to create a function where you can update or post anything to your profile. In that case, you are going to use the API view sets. Okay, because the model view set will provide you the entire HTTP methods operations, which are the get, post, put, patch, and delete. But in the API views, you have a control to define your own functions, which HTTP operations you are going to accept as a request. So if you just define a list operation, a list function, so you will just provide a list of your objects to the client side. If you define a retry, then you can provide two functions where you can get the full list of objects or individual objects. So in that case, you are going to use the API view sets. But if you want to build a quick API which will have a crude operations, then the model view sets are a great option. Okay. So let's start and build our own model view set. So let's define a class. Okay, let's call it block model view set. Okay, and it will be extended from the view sets dot model view set class. So we have already extended it from the we have already extended it from the REST framework. So either we can use the view set or the model view set. Both are in the view set class. So we are going to use view sets dot model view set. Okay. First thing you have to do, you have to define a class. And then second thing is you need to define a serializer. Okay, so serializer class will be, so we are going to use this same serializer for model view set. So we have block serializer dot block, which is this serializer class. Okay, and the second thing you need to define is query set. And query set will be your model file, then your model class, then objects, all functions. Okay, so the first thing you need to define is a serializer class. Second thing is you need to define is a query set. That's it. We have created our model view set. It will perform a basic CRUD operations by just providing us a serializer class and the query set. Now what we have to do, we have to create a URL for that. So let's go to URL file, and we are going to extend the same router function. Let me just comment everything. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to just use this router object, then register our block view, so which is okay, block model view set. So view dot model view set. That's it. Okay, so let's go to our browser and check it. So let me change this block view to model view set, model block. Okay, okay, we need to define a URL pattern for that first. Okay, so let's just visit this URL block underscore block view set. So you can see we got a list of objects and what operations we can perform, what are the allow method, get, post, head, and options. So you guys can see we can just post the data, we can just get the data, but you are you are unable to see the put and patch method. Can anybody tell me why we are not seeing the option which is put and patch on the root URL?
Sir, I think we have to create URL for that.
No, Ashish. Let me tell you one thing. Model view sets will take care of your URL patterns, your HTTP methods, everything. We have to just define, we have to first register it to the router and create a URL pattern for that. That's it. Okay, the reason might be because we are on the root URL. Okay, if I just pass this one object, okay, the object is not in the list, so let's 16. Okay, so you will see put and patch because it is only for this individual object. Okay, let me do one thing in the serializer. Let's add ID and hit enter. So you can say we got the ID in the list, but we can't add the ID or update a ID from the what we can say the HTML form. From the HTML form, we cannot just update a ID. Either we cannot insert an ID from post method also. So the IDs are generally not editable or writable from the APIs. It is only a readable attribute of your model file. So it won't change from the IP. If you just pass this ID from your serializer, suppose you have a foreign key that you can change the foreign key, but you cannot just directly change the primary key from your serializers. If you define a serializer which has this ID, which is a primary key, you will get to know, you will get to see the primary key as an attribute from your response, but you cannot just directly update your ID. Yeah, that's it. We have built the model serializers. So if I go to, let's say at the 3, so I can just update everything. So let's make it 34 and put the entire data. So you will see the block 34. For example, if I have to just change the description, I'll visit the raw data, remove everything, except the description and make it 34, make a patch request. Okay, what it says, okay, got it. Let's again hit the enter button. Let's again remove this comma from here. Again, make it 34 and make a patch request. So you can see we got this blog updated. Let's
Sir,
go
please
to
pass any invalid data.
yeah,
Pass.
I was trying to show you that just a moment. So if I go to the post method and make a post request, so you will see the title, description, and dates are not compatible. Sorry, not this field may not be null. So the same error you will see on the HTML form. Let's try to update with the wrong data. So let's make it, okay, just already a date field. Okay, let's try to make it 2009 2014. Sorry, okay, whatever the date is, make a patch request. So you will see date has a wrong format. Use one of this format instead of YYMMDD. That's it. We have created a model view set. So it will perform every basic operation. Okay, we'll try to delete something. So let's call it delete operation. So you will see 204 no content because we have deleted that particular object. So if I go back to the entire list, you won't see the ID third because we have already deleted in. And if I visited the third object, what it will say, not found. And the HTTP method will be 404. Yeah, that's it. This is the model view set. There are plenty of things we can do in the model view set. For example, what if I have to search anything? Okay, for example, I want to search a data which has blog file as a title. Can I do that in the model view set? Because we are not writing any if condition or filters. Is it possible? Yes, guys, is it possible? Instead of all, can I use the filter operation?
Yes, sir.
But how I can get the data, or how can I understand it is a
We
get
have nothing
request?
to filter, sir, like any field.
Sorry.
We don't have anything particular to filter in our objects.
Yeah, right. So can we do something? Is there any way to filter data? What you guys think? Should we write if conditions? What if I say you have to just import one package? That's it.
Sir, is there a filter, dot filter as well?
Filter dot.
Dot filter class, I think it is there in Django.
Instead of alt, we can use the filter class,
Yeah.
filter method. But we
Yeah.
don't have a data to filter. And what if it is a post request, or let's say if it is a put request or patch request,
Then we have
right? We have to just perform a filter to the get operations. So there is a package called a filters. Okay, so let's just import it. Okay, so it will be imported from the REST framework. So from REST underscore framework import filters. Okay, we have to just import this filter class. And what we have to do, we have to make a filter backend. So there is a variable, or there is a keyword for the Django REST framework, which is filter underscore backend. So what we have to do, we have to just define a filter, which is a filter. It is a filters dot. What filters we are going to use? We are going to use this search filter. So we have to define a search filter and try to make it a tuple instead of list, because we don't want additional code to make changes in the filter backend. So always make sure if you are dealing with the model view set, you should define a pre-functions or a predefined functions in the tuples instead of list or dictionary. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to define the filter backend, which will be search filter. Okay, and second thing we have to do is we have to mention our search field. So let's write search underscore fields, and then we have to again define a tuple. So what we have to filter, let's go to our model file. We have to just filter our title only. So let's copy it and paste it. So it would be a tuple. So we have to define this comma. That's it. We have built our filter. So let's go back to our browser, hit the refresh button. So you will see this filter option. Okay, so if I click on this filter and search block 4, so you will see the search result. And in the URL, you will see we have a search keyword and then our value. So if I just change it to 5, it will be block 5. If I just change it to 6, it will be 6. So from the client, from the client side, what you have to do, you have to make a get request with the search key and the value. Okay, so for example, I just copy it, and in the Postman, okay, it again showing me to sign up. Just a minute, guys. Okay, from the Postman, what we have to do, we have to make a get request. What will be the keywords? What will be the key value pair? First one is search, and second one is your actual value. What you have to search. Let's say we have a double value pair. Okay, we have block, new block one. So let's go to search new block one. So if I just send the request, so you will see we have block one, sorry, new block one as a 2 entry. So you will get the list of objects. So if you have multiple objects which have the same search result, so it will provide you a query set for your API, and that will be converted to a JSON, and it will be provided you as an output. So whatever you write in the search keyword or search parameter, it will be treated as a search field. So what you have to do, if you are going to use the search functionality of Django REST framework, first thing you need to do is import a filters from the REST framework. Then you have to define a filter backend. What will be our filter backend? We are going to implement search filters. Then we have to define our search fields, in which field you have to make a search. Okay, let's say if you want to search a date as well, I'll just pass the date. Let's go to our browser, hit the refresh button, open the filter, and let's make a 2021-09-14. If I enter the search button, you will see we got the value of the 2021-09 and 14. So it will search in the name as well as in the date. So if it's found in the title, it will return your query set. If it's found in the date, then it will return your query set. So this is how we can perform a search filter. This is how we can perform a search operation in the model view sets. Okay. Is anyone have any question in the model view sets?
Sir, can we enter only year?
Yeah, sorry.
For example, 2020, 2021,
Okay. Okay.
half
Okay.
string.
Half string. Okay, so let's go and search 2021. So you will find the multiple options which is similar to 2021. So let's search for the 15. Okay, so let's go to search and make it 15. Make a search. So you will find whatever the 15 result present in the substring, it will provide you an output. So we have 15 as at ID 5, 6, 9, 10, 11. Okay, and from till 16. So we can perform the search result in the substring too.
And
Okay,
sir,
if you one more thing, if just a minute, Ashi. So if you just pass the blank search keyword, it will provide you the entire query set again. So it is the same request, which is the get same request. Okay, so without any search value, it will be treated as a blank HTTP get request. So if you don't pass any values to the search keyword or search parameter, it will be treated as a plain HTTP get method. Okay, yeah, Ashish.
sir, please explain about base name
Base name. Okay, so
in urls.py.
yeah, so if you don't provide a query set, for example, if you are just using a model view set, you don't need to provide a base name because we are actually defining a query set. But in the API view set, we have defined our query set, but it was in the list function. It wasn't a global variable. So that's why we have to define our view set. But if you are using a view set, and then you are defining a query set as a global object, then again, you don't need to define a base name for the model view set. For example, you don't have any query set in your API view set, then you have to define a base name, which will be treated as your fake model name. So it is just, let's say, you can override your model name or query set parameters from the base name. It is not a good practice. You have to do everything in your API views. Earlier, it used to happen. You can just update a base name and it will change your query set operations. I'm not sure it happens in the current version or not. But in the earlier version, there used to be a provision where you can just simply change a base name and the entire model, entire API views are treated as a different, what it is, different model API view set, model, API view set.
means suppose I want to use query set, then I need to define here base name.
Okay, if you are
in the
using a
router.
query set, then you don't need to define a base name. If you are not using a query set, let's say you are building an API view set to read a file. Okay, it is not mandatory you have to use the API view set with the serializers only. You can just use the API view set to perform any kind of operation what you can do in the API views. Okay, so for example, if you are reading a file from your uh, server, so in that case you are not going to use any kind of query set. Then you have to define this base name, because there is no query set operation in your APIs. So you have to define the base name. Otherwise, if you are using this query set, you don't need to define base name. Okay, that's how we have created a model view set. We have not defined the base name. Okay, if you can see, the syntax is almost same, but there is only difference, which is base name. So we have query set option. That's why we don't need to define a query set.
But sir, in our upper class, we also used query set. Then
Yeah,
why
we
we
did. But earlier when we defined our router, it was something like this. Did you remember?
Yes, sir. Okay, okay, got it.
Okay.
And sir, base name will be a model name. Am I right?
You can write anything.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
It would be same as your URL pattern name.
Okay, sir. Got it.
Okay. Any other questions regarding with the model view set, model serializer, API view sets, API views? Are you guys clear with the model view set? So I'll ask you some questions. For example, you are building a user profile. Which API views you are going to use? If you are building a user profile API, which API view class you are going to extend or you are going to use? Because the profile cannot be updated by anyone, right? So let's consider this example. Consider this title is a username, description as a first name, and date as a password. Consider this is a user profile. So what I want to do, I want to just update my password or my username only. Can I do that? Because right now, if I visit the sixth ID, I can just directly make a patch for put request and update the entire object or partial update it, right? So what if I have to just update my own profile, not the everyone's profile? So which view class you are going to use? Did you get my question? Let's do one thing. Let's add a user from django.contrib.auth import user. So what we are going to do, we'll mimic something. For example, who is the writer of this particular blog? So we are assigning a user ID to that particular blog. And if that blog owner is the only, if that blog owner is actually surfing the API, then only he can update the blog object. Otherwise, everyone can just see or get the single attribute. So it will be just a get request for everyone or the post request. But for the owner, it will be get, post, put, patch, and destroy. Okay, so let's just add user is equal to models dot foreign key. Then we have to define our object, sorry, model class. Then on delete, what we have to do, we have to delete the entire model if the user is deleted. So let's make it cascade. Yeah. So we got some error, cannot import user. Okay, it is from the django.contrib.auth. I guess the syntax is right. Okay, django.contrib.auth.model. We are actually accessing the model. Okay, so did you get my question? What we are trying to do, if the user is the owner of that particular blog, then only he can update or change the blog object. So which API view you are going to use? Sorry, API view class. Guys, please respond. I earlier said you, it is totally your preference. So what is your preference? I just wanted to know.
If you want to update object,
If you want to object your own object only, for example, you are the owner of block 6, then you can only the person who can update the block 6 object or delete the block 6 object. Otherwise, the other person which are not the owner of that particular block can just update, just can get the block object or make or create a new object. He cannot just directly update your object because he is not the owner of your object.
API view,
API view. Okay, what else? What about the others? What about the others? Arvind, Rakesh, Roshan, Saikat, Shubham, Suraj, Vivek. Which API view you are going to use? I just wanted to know your preference. So just answer. It doesn't matter you are saying API view set, or model view set. Okay, Vivek said API view sets. Roshan said API view sets. Okay, Suraj, Shubham. Okay, this is something which need a full control over the API. Am I right? Because you wanted to perform a if condition if the requested or authenticated or logged in user is the same user who is requesting the object of his own created object, then only give him or her authority to update the or delete the object. So we can use the model view sets also, but there is a difference between if conditions. If we are using the if view set, if we are using API view sets or API views, we can just directly write a if condition if the requested user, if requested.user.id is equal to blog.user ID. Okay, then only give him the option of put and patch method. Otherwise, just return a response, which is that 403 or it was 303 forbidden. Same goes for the API view sets. We can have a permission class, and for the model also we can have a permission class. So what is the permission class? So let me go back to Django documentation. So how permissions are determined. So what we are going to do, we are actually performing a permission. Okay, if the user is the authority person, then only he can update his object, right? It is some kind of permission. So we are going to use the permission object or permission classes of REST framework. So what is this permission classes? It's a function which you can just pass it from your model view set, and then the function will take care of your if conditioning or whatever you have written in that particular function, and provide you either a boolean operation, either a boolean output, or whatever you have just written it from the functions. So permissions are basically a classes where we can write our conditions to perform a individual's object which has authority or not to make a request, which is HTTP put, patch, or delete request. Okay, anyone cannot just directly make a put, patch, and delete request, right? For example, if it is a live server, you have made this API for your live server, and I got the URL. What I will do, I will just come to this URL, try to fetch the port ID, and just delete it. Is it good or not? It is the universal access. Anyone can just update anything. It doesn't matter if it's an authority person or authorized person. He can perform any operation which is written in your APIs. Am I right? So how to prevent this? We have to use the authentication as well as permission classes. Right now, what we are going to do, we are going to just use the permission classes. For the authentication, we need to create a function or class or API class, which will be used for your authenticating a user from your API side. So let's first build the login function or login API. And it is very simple. You have to just define again one class. So let's go to back to the views. So what you have to do, the first thing you need to do is in your setting.py file, which is your core file, you have to write this REST framework default authentication classes. So you will find this code from your authentication document. So this is the first line of code you will see in the documentation. This will be the same for every project. It doesn't matter what project you are using. If it has authentication, what you have to do is just copy this, paste in your setting.py file. So what this default authentication classes are actually, so as we know, Django uses its own authentication function, right? Which is authenticate and login. Am I right? Remember, Django uses predefined authenticate and login function to make an authentication request for the user. So it will create a session for the user which has the username and password. If it is valid, then it will create a session for that particular user. So what we are going to do, we have to create something which is similar for the Django authentication, but it won't provide a session or request. It will just provide a token system. So what is token system? So let's go to our API views. Our broad.io. So for example, you are going to visit, let's say, Facebook from your mobile, not from the website. Okay, so you are visiting a Facebook from your mobile, which has its own application. So you are you are trying to access your Facebook account, which is your own Facebook account. So can you just directly use the Facebook by searching your name? Yeah, this is me. Now just make the login request. No, what we did, we make the username field, we make the authentication, which from where we just provide our username and password. It will get authenticated from the backend server, and then they provide us a token. So what is this token? So let's consider you have a Facebook application in your mobile phone, and consider this your mobile phone. So this is a server, this is your application. Okay, so whenever you are trying to visit your own profile, right, from your mobile phone, you are trying to make a request. The request is fetch your own profile. So how can server knows what profile object I have to serve to this particular device, because there are multiple devices connected to the same server which uses the same application, right? So how they can distinguish each other from the server side. So they provide a token system. So for example, this mobile has some token. Let's call it token 1. Let's call it token 2. Let's call it token 3. Whenever this third mobile make a request, it will pass the token 3D. Okay, how I can connect this? Okay, so this third mobile will, if the third mobile is requesting his own profile, then what it will do, it will provide this token 3 to the application. Application make an API request to the Facebook. Now Facebook has a server has a table where the tokens are stored for the individual users. Okay, so for example, this is Ajay. Let's call it Vivek. Let's call it Suraj, and let's call it Shubham. Okay, so these guys are using the Facebook app, and Shubham is trying to access his own profile. So Shubham has provided a username and password. He successfully logged into the application. Now what he's trying to do, he's trying to access his own profile. So when Shubham make a request, the mobile application will pass this token 3 to the server, and server has a database where the user ID and the token are stored in a form of query sets. Okay, so in the database, what will the server will do? Server will search for the token 3 in the database and which user is associated with this particular token. So he will fetch the particular request, particular user, and then try to make a session for that individual request within the server. So whenever you make a request.user, you will get the Shubham as an output. If the Suraj is performing an operation, same operation, so whenever you write the request.user, the output will be the Suraj. Whenever the Vivek is trying to access the same, the output will be Vivek for the request.user. So what it actually means, there are the multiple sessions stored in a one table, which is associated with the token. So in the same thing, Django provide a token system. So we have to make something. We have to tell the Django, yeah, we are going to use the Django we are going to use the token authentication. So we have to make a basic authentication and session authentication. So this basic authentication will take care of generating your token, or making association between your token and the user. And this session authentication will take care of you generating a session for that particular request. So whenever the requester is trying to access the server from that particular token, it will create a session for that particular individual request. So whenever you write the request.user, you will get the session of that token holder. So that is why we need to define these two classes as a default authentication classes in the REST framework. Okay, we did the same. And the second thing we need to do is we have to add the token auth token app to our installed application in the Django setting. So this will create a database where the user ID and the tokens are stored. So this app will take care of that. And we need to define the authentication classes. That's it. The first thing is define authentication classes. Second thing is define the auth token app from the REST framework to the installed app. So when you migrate your changes, you will see the database of your tokens. So I have already migrated the changes before the class. I forget to remove these. So let me just visit our admin panel. The procedure will be same. You have to make the migrations, then you have to make the migrate command, and that's it. You don't need to fire any additional command or write anything. So you will see this token or token app. If you click on this, you will find this token which is generated for the admin. So I was trying to check the things are working or not. So I make one request. So you will see the token. Either you can generate a token for the individual user too from the admin panel. So let's say I have to generate a token for the John. So I will just click on the John and make a request. So yeah, you get the new token key for the John. So now let's just create a view function where we can handle our basic authentication. So we are going to use Django predefined functions. We are not going to use the API view set or model view set or API views. Instead of what we are going to use, we are going to use the obtain auth token class. Okay, so let me just visit the view function, and we have to make a couple of imports before creating our class. So let me just add a job string for authentication. So the first import will be your from REST framework. Okay, then we have to import a token auth token dot views, and from the views we have to import obtain auth token. Okay, yeah, it is. So we have to first import the auth token, obtain auth token, and the second input would be API settings. So I will tell you why we need to use the API settings, but this obtain auth token will be take care of your generating token to destroy your own token. So we have to make a connection between user and the tokens. That's why we have to import this obtain auth token, which is from the Django REST framework auth token, which we have already defined in our setting file. Okay, so we are just accessing this class or this app, and this that particular app has a views which has a class obtain auth token. So we have to import that. And the second thing would be your REST framework dot settings. Then we have to import API settings. Okay, everything is working. So I'll tell you why we need to use this API setting. Before that, let's go and build our class. So the class would be class, and let's say user login view, and it will be extended from your obtain auth token. That's it. We don't need to specify any sub package or subclass. Okay, and the second thing we need to do is this user login function will not provide any kind of API interface from the browser. Okay, earlier we see this is the API interface browser. This is the API interface for the browser. So for the login, it does not provide any predefined user interface. So we need to create that in our API view. So how to do that? First, we need to use the render classes. Okay, renderer classes. Okay, and then we have to extend that API setting. And in the, from that API setting, we have to from the setting we have to import default renderer classes. Okay, sorry, default renderer underscore classes. Okay, what is error? Okay, we forget to add is equal to. Okay, I guess it should be default underscore renderer classes. API settings dot DEFA ULT underscore RENDE RERCLASSES. Okay, that's right. API settings. I think it is settings. Okay, it is settings. So why it show invalid API setting? Let's just restart our server and let's see. Okay, it's working. So whenever you make changes to your setting.py, but we didn't do any changes in our setting.py file. Okay, not sure why that error came. So yeah, that's it. We have to just define this renderer classes. What this renderer classes will do, it will provide an interface for your login. Sorry. Yeah, okay. So it will provide API interface for your login functions where you can just add your username and password. So it will just provide you a API interface from your browser. Okay, so we have created a view function for our login. We need to create a URL pattern in order to make a user authenticated, right? We need a URL pattern where user can submit their request and the request get processed. So we need to perform one more thing, which is create a URL pattern for our login. So let's say path. Now let's create a login. Then views dot our API view function name, so which is user login. Then we have to treat it as a view. So we have to define. So if you guys remember, we use this as view for our API views, right? So we have to make our API, our API class to treat as a view function. That's why we have to mark this as a view. That's it. We have created our API routing. So let's go back to our browser and let's check it. So in API, let's just write login. Okay, sorry. Okay. Yeah, okay. So if you see, if I visit the login URL, you will see details method get is not allowed. Okay, can anybody tell me why we got this error? Method get is not allowed.
Here on allowed list, only post and options are available.
Okay, right. So only we can submit our data to this login API, right? So let me just make a space for. Okay, if I visit the HTML form, so you will see we got the username and password. So if I just enter our admin panel username, so the admin panel username was admin and the password was 123456. So if I just hit the enter button, so you will get the output like token is equal to some kind of random string. So this is your token whenever the user perform an authentication request and the request is valid. Okay, so let's just try a random string and we'll see. Okay, not field error, unable to log in with the provided credential. Do we have written any kind of validation or any kind of serializer? What we have to do? Okay, sorry. What we have to do, we have to just create a class which will be extended from the obtain auth token, which is the subclass of auth token dot views. What is this auth token? Auth token is an app. We have already registered it. It comes predefined with the REST framework. Whenever you are going to use authentication function, you have to define this odd token class. Then you have to create a URL pattern. That's it. We have not written any kind of serializer, any kind of validations. What we did, we have just created one class in the view function, which is obtained from the, which is extended from the obtain odd token. So what this obtain odd token does, this obtain odd token will provide you a token. So if let me, I can write the right credential. So if the credentials are right, it will take care of your mapping your user or creating your user profile or inserting your user profile into this token model file or model database. So this is it. This is how we can use the authentication. But how we can use this odd token? Can we provide just for in the form data? If I want to check or perform a request, just like we did, it will send the token 3 to the server. So how it can send this token 3 to the server? Will be it in the form data, or where from it can be sent to the server, so the server can identify which user is requesting a file or whatever the data.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, Ashish.
Sir, I have some doubts till now.
Okay.
Sir, what? Please explain. Repeat. Basic auth and session auth.
Okay, basic
Basic
auth and session
authentication.
auth.
Yes. In settings.py.
Okay, this one.
Ah.
Okay, so let me do one thing. We have to use this first token. So just a moment, Ashish. Let me just first explain how we can use this token, and we'll go back to your query. So how I can use this token? There is a mod tool or Chrome extension we can use, which is mod header. Okay, so if you go to mod header extension for Chrome, so you will find this mod header extension. If you are not going to use the same, okay, very good. Okay, same API interface for your API, you can do also one thing. In the Postman, let's make a post request, and in the headers, you have to write the key value pair. The key is authorization. Okay, and the value will be token space your actual token. So this is how you send your token from the client side to the server side. Okay, from the headers with the key, which is authorization, and the value which is concatenated with the token string space, then your own token. The same thing, if you are going to make a request from this API interface, then you have to use the mod header tool. So what this mod header tool will do, it will mimic your HTTP headers, HTTP headers. So whatever you write in the, okay, whatever you write in the key value pair, it will be treated as a header to your request. So same thing, authorization, and then again, okay, token, token is small, let's see, and your token. So let's enable it. Remember one thing, when you complete your development, just go back to your mod header and untick this, because the Google uses the same authentication headers, so it will get conflict with your Google's account. So remember that thing when you're done with your development part, just go and uncheck this. Or if you are visiting a Google or trying to access your Gmail, just uncheck this. Otherwise, you won't get any email. If you get the email, you can't read that, because in your client side, there is one more header, which is authorization, token, and the token. And Google also has their own HTTP header, which is authorization, token, and their own token header. So it will get, it will provide, it will create a conflict. So remember that thing. Most of the websites uses the same headers. So remember that. Okay, so we did perform a HTTP header mimic. So how we can access this token in our Django? So let's create, okay, we already had the API view. So let's say you want to check a request, you want to check the authenticated user or which user is requesting this particular API. So let's say user, and let's create one, let's enable this API. So we have blogs. So let's just visit this API in the duplicate tab. Okay, so if I go back to our browser, in the console, you get this admin, which is requested.user. I have what I did, I just printed the request object, which holds your request authorized user session, right? In the Django, we have already seen request object also hold your authorized session, right? So you will get this request.user. And how you can get this? Because we have already defined it in this session authentication. Okay, so if you just remove this, your session request.session will not work. Otherwise, your request session will not work. If you just, okay, where it is, okay, if you just remove this session authentication, you can't find what user or which user or who's actually is the request or who is the client accessing or trying to access your endpoint. So this is why we need to use this session authentication. And what is this basic authentication? Basic authentication simply means you are going to provide a username and password that comes into basic authentications. There are multiple ways. For example, if you are trying to make a two-factor authentication. Okay, so what is two-factor authentication? Where you provide a username and password, you submit the request, and server gives you one more option to make sure, yeah, that is you. So maybe you can say you are going to make a two-factor authentication, which will take a username and password, and second one would be your email ID or your mobile number will get the OTP, and you are going to enter that particular OTP. So it will verify, yeah, that's particularly you, or you are using the system, not from you, or not the person who only got your username password. Okay, so that is called a two-factor authentication. So if you are using the only username and password, so you have basically you are using a basic authentication. There are multiple authentications. I am not fully aware of that, so I won't tell you the wrong thing. Basically, you just need a basic authentication. If you are trying to make something, for example, let's say you are trying to build an authentication system where user will get an OTP from our system, and he will enter the OTP along with the mobile number. So you can do that in the API views. Okay, you are going to create a separate API view just for the login purpose, and you are going to use the exact Django authentication system where you just authenticate your user and make a login request, and you will get the same data into the request.user object. So if you are going to use the complicated authentication system, I suggest you use the API view. If you are using the basic authentication system, Django already provides the basic authentication system from the authentication.basic authentication package. And this session authentication means you are going to use the request object dot user. If you just remove this, where it is, okay, if you just remove this session authentication, you won't get the session data which is stored in the request object. Okay, Ashish? Ashish?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, Ashish.
Huh, sir. Please explain basic auth and session auth in simple words.
Simple words. So basic auth is just the same basic authentication. Username and password. That is a basic authentication.
No, when you explain in first time, please repeat that.
The first time, what was the words? Can you please tell me?
Basic auth. मतलब आपने दोनों का भी अलग फंक्शन बताया था.
हाँ, दोनों का अलग ही फंक्शन है. बेसिक ऑथेंटिकेशन simply means you are going to perform a basic authentication, which is the username and password. In the Django, basic authentication simply means you are going to provide a username and password, which is Django's default authentication system, right? So that is termed as a basic authentication. And in the session authentication, if you are using, if you are not using the session authentication, that simply means you are giving up the access to your sessions. So this session authentication generally provide you a session simply for a particular request, because we are not storing any kind of sessions, right? Whenever someone requests something, for example, I have requested something in the blog API view, and I want to provide a data which is equivalent to that particular user. So what the Django REST framework will do, it will go back to this table, find the associated user with that particular token. If he find, he will create, it will create a function, it will create a session for that particular user for that particular request. That's it. This is how they interconnect the token with the user.
Okay, sir. And obtain auth token.
Okay, obtain or token will
Yes.
take care of your this
You said
particular
some-
app.
You said
So,
something connection between something.
yeah. So for example, if I just go and create a token for this test user and save it. So this is the functionality which has the create, update, read, delete operation, right? Okay, I don't think they have a delete operation. Okay, they don't provide a delete operation. Okay, so this is just a read and create operation. So are we have any function where we can create a token or update or delete a token or post a token? No. So that will be taken care by this obtain or token. So what its name suggests, obtain or token for this particular user which has the valid credentials. Okay.
Okay. And sir, my fourth question is, for each request, client send a token to server, or only one request?
No, for the every request, the client has to send his token.
But it will reduce the performance of server
No, no, no,
if
it
lots of front end sending requests same time at a time.
no, no,
Okay.
it won't, because headers are already there in the request. You are just passing one more key values.
And this token is creating at client side or server side?
Token is created from the server side and sent to the client side. So whenever you make a login request, okay, so whenever you make a login request, that the token is generated from the server side and it is passed as an API response to the client side. So the client will also have the same token as the server has. So that's how they can check, yeah, this is the request from that particular device. For example, the same token stored on the client side should be the same stored in the server side. If this token get mismatched, that simply means the client or the requester is not a uh, valid, sorry, the authorized person to access the particular request. So
That means,
whenever, that simply means the user is not valid. So
yes,
if
that means clients save the token at his side.
right, right. So for
Okay.
example, if I go back, okay, I have not added any authentication right now. So if we had created an API where only authenticated user can access the particular API, so then only if the token is right, then only he can access that particular API. Okay, so if the token is not correct, user will send invalid token. And at the client end, whenever you get the invalid token option or invalid token error, you have to again make a authorization request, which is again log into your server and again get the new token from the server and make that request.
Okay, means after a successful login, server will send a token to client, and he will say to client that save that and use for next request.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And sir, my last question is, can you print token on console So we will get to know that where actually token is stored. For example, request.user, then like that.
Okay, token is not stored in the request object. It is stored in the token app. Okay, which is in the auth token, and this is the representation of that particular database. So it is stored in this particular table. So whenever user send a token along with the header, so the header will check Django REST framework will catch that header from the request and check it is present in our table or not. If it is present, create a particular session for that individual request and then serve the request. So it is not stored on the request object. It is only stored on the database. That's it.
Okay, that means we can't print a token on console.
Right. We cannot, yeah, we can print the token on console, but we have to make an API view instead of using these predefined functions.
Okay, sir.
Okay, we can access the token, we can go through, we can get the query set of the token, then we have to access bit more, and that is not preferable. Okay, only if you are using the API view to create a token, then only it is recommended. Otherwise, go with the basic authentication. Yeah.
Okay, sir. My all questions are clear. All
Okay.
doubts are clear.
Okay. Okay. Anuj, Rakesh, Roshan, Saikat, Shubham, Suraj, Vivek, do you guys have any question regarding with the authentication system of Django REST framework? Okay, there is one more thing remaining, which is permission classes. And there is one more thing. If the user is not authenticated, then I don't want to make this API visible or accessible. So we'll try to achieve that in the same blog model you said. Okay, any question, guys? Any doubt, any question, any issue, any queries?
Sir, after sign up, server don't create token, only create after login.
After sign up, yeah, it won't create any token. Tokens are only created when you make a login request from your API.
Okay, sir.
Okay, usually this is the correct flow. If you tweak the system in that way, whenever the user register himself, generate a token and return a response, then that's fine. There are some cases where you need this kind of functionality, but this is the usual way most of the websites follow. You have to register, then you have to again make a authentication request where you pass your username and password. Okay. Anuj, Roshan, Saikat, Shubham, Suraj, are you guys clear with the model you said and authentication? Okay, Saikat, good. Okay, Roshan, Anuj, Anuj, Shubham, Anuj, are you connected? Okay, Rakesh. Okay, guys, just a question. Which API view do you prefer most of the time? What do you think? When you are dealing or working on the live projects, what will be your API view selection?
And API view sets if only CRUD operations are, unlike if more than one model or something like that, anything complex, then we will go with API view.
Mhm.
And I mean, like if you have to perform all the 4 operations, then model view, if any 2 or single operation, then it'll give the API view sets.
Right. Okay, good. There is one more thing. Most of the websites does not have this predefined Django administrator. They have their own custom Django admin. So most of the websites build their own admin panel for the Django. Okay, so let me show you. For example, okay, this is the admin panel for this particular website. So the same functionality what we have in the Django default administration, you will have to perform in the custom admin panel. So this is also the thing people ask to do you. So it doesn't matter it is in Django or React. If you are using a React, then yeah, for sure you need to create an admin panel, or yeah, you need to create an admin panel as well as front end. Most of the client ask for the custom administration because customizing the Django admin panel is not the fully, we don't have a full control over the Django administrator. So most of the people ask for the custom Django administration. So it is not a replacement for this Django administration. It is just a separate app or separate website. Okay, in that case, you have to create your own admin panel. You have to perform basic CRUD operation. Yeah, that's it.
Means API view sets.
It's totally depend if, for example, let's say you are dealing with the customers have only one interaction, which is customer model. So you are going to use just a customer model, which is model view set. You can just use the CRUD operation of model view set because it's an admin panel. Then you don't need to be worried, yeah, which operation I have to perform. Admin panel usually have read, update, delete, and create operations, which is entire CRUD operations. So in that case, feel free to use the model view set. And it doesn't matter if you just mark a website, create a model view set and does not provide a URL in your client end. So for example, you have a create customer endpoint and you don't want to create a customer, that's fine. You can still use the model view set in your for your admin panel, custom admin panel. That's totally fine because the same API can be used for the front end or the client side. So make your APIs in that way. It is useful in the both cases. If you are building a front end, custom backend or front end, so you have to use the same API. Just the functionality would be different for the users. So how we can achieve that? We can achieve with the permission model. For example, super admin can perform create, read, update, delete operation, but let's say sub admin cannot perform a delete operation. So you have to just check in the if conditions. Yeah, it is permissible or not. There are some extra functions you can just directly import or pass it into the Django's model view set classes, but that would be something advanced concept. So we are not going too deep into that. But when you are dealing with the permissions, so this is actually one kind of permission. Super admin can create the entire object and sub admin are going to, yes, we are going to learn the permissions. That is just one class which we need to define. That's it. So we are going to use the same sub model. Sorry, we are going to use the same blog model view set. And in that blog model view set, first what we are going to check, if the user is logged in, then only view the he can use the API endpoint. Otherwise, he will get invalid credential or whatever the response of that Django REST framework. So we are going to learn two things. First, how to make your API authenticate a user. So if the user is not logged in or either he is not providing a token, then he cannot access your API. Second thing, if the user has permission to update his own blog, then only he can update his blog. So let's start with the authentication first. So for the authentication, what you have to do, you have to just define an authentication class. Okay, so in order to do that, you have to import one thing, which is from, okay, just a moment. Okay, yeah. So we have to import some classes. So the first thing is REST framework and authentication and import token authentication. Why we are importing this token authentication? Because we have already an app which is REST framework dot auth token. So we are using the auth token system to authenticate the user. That's why we are importing this token authentication. And second thing, yeah, that's totally fine. We are going to use the permission classes later. So in the API view or model view set, what you need to do is define a class which is authentication underscore class. Make sure the keywords are correct. Okay, usually I use the camel case. Okay, but when I'm defining generic keywords, then you usually use the underscore, not the camel case. So this is a generic keyword for the Django REST framework. So use it as it is. So serializer class, then filter backends and authentication classes. These are the generic keywords for the Django REST framework. And in the authentication class, you have to make a tuple which says token authentication. Okay. Now we have created our API in that way that if the user is logged in, then only he can access. So make it in the top. So the hierarchy would be if the authentication classes are correct, then only go to serializer, fetch the query set, add a filters and search fields. Okay, so let's go back to our browser and check it. So okay, what is our endpoint? Model blocks. So let's just copy these, go to model blocks. Okay, and let's just remove our header classes. Sorry, header authentication. So I'll just remove this and hit enter. Okay, nothing works. So let's go back to our view function and try to debug it. So what went wrong? Okay, authentication underscore class. Then it will extend token authentication. Yeah, that's right. Block view set. Okay, yeah, we got the error. What is the error? We already have an admin login, so we have to log it out and again try to make the request. Okay, again I'm not able to make any request. Why is it so? Okay, I'm visiting the same API view. Okay, block model. This is API. Okay, just a moment, guys. Let me debug it. Okay, so we have authentication class. We have extended it from the authentication. Then I think what else we should include? Okay, let's go back to the documentation and check it. So, okay, session authentication and basic authentication. Framework, authentication, what we have used, authentication, that's right, because we are using the token authentication, which is imported from the authentication. And let's try their way instead of ours. Okay, we are just experimenting it. We are not going to use the exact same thing until we debug this. Still we are okay. Is authenticated. Oh, okay, sorry. One more thing. We cannot just directly import authentication. We have to also import the permission classes. Okay, so let's go back and control Z everything. Okay, yeah, let's go back and check. Okay, it's working. So we have to again define a permission classes. The authentication classes are not the only thing. We again have to define a permission class. So let's call permission classes. And we need to define a permission. So the permission is first we need to create a permission class. So okay, I did one thing wrong, which is I have only imported or assigned a authentication classes. We also need to assign a permission classes. That way, only the user can get authenticated. So let's create our permission class. So to create a permission class, I usually prefer creating a new file, which is called permissions.py. Okay, and in the same file, we have to write our permission class. So it should be imported from the Django, from the REST framework, import the permissions. Okay, we need to extend this in our class. So let's call can update on blog, and we need to extend it from the permissions dot base permission. We are actually defining a base permission. What are the base permission? We'll discuss in a moment. So let's define a function which says has object permission. Okay, so what this function will do, if the object has a particular permission, then only serve it. So in the permission class, we need to check two things. The first thing is user can get the entire data. Okay, so if someone is making a GET request, then he should can access the entire list of the blogs, because blogs can be accessible to every user apart from the login user. It doesn't matter if the user is logged in or not, user can access the entire blogs, right? Only the authenticated user can update their own blogs. Am I right? So let's go back, and what we need to check, if request dot methods in permissions dot set method. So first let's discuss what parameters it required. So the first thing is self, which is for this base class. Request, which is our request object. This view is actually our API view. Okay, and the object is actually, okay, we don't have the views right now. Okay, the object is the query set object, which is iterating right now in the request. Okay, if we are going to get a full list of object, then it would be a queries. Otherwise, if we are going to use a single object, then it would be a plain single object. So it's depend on which method you are actually calling. And what the safe methods are. Safe methods are those methods which does not affect your database. Okay, in our case, get is only the safe method, right? Get is the only safe method because user can just see the data, he cannot update or modify the database. So the methods which does not modify your database are termed in the safe method. So in our case, it is only one method, which is get method. Okay. So if the method is get, then simply return true. So if someone is asking for the entire list, then that's fine. And if the user has the request or access to his own blog, for example, user is accessing or trying to access his created blog, then only he can access the method. Okay, so how to do that? We can use the if condition, but Django provides a simple way. For example, object dot user dot id is equal to request dot user dot id. We have already set up our model in that way that user can be a foreign key of the blog. So every blog has a user object in it, so we can directly access object dot user, sorry, not object, obj. Okay, obj dot user dot id. So if this blog class is iterating, then we have the user object. So this blog model will be the object in our permission model. Then we have a user object in our object, which is right there. Okay, and we are trying to check if the user is same in the blog which is requesting a request. So this would be written a true if the user is authenticated and are the owner of that particular blog. So it will return true, otherwise it will return false. So we have created our permission class. So let's just import it. Okay, in the view files, we need to import our permission file first. Okay, so we need to first call from dot import permissions. Okay, so we have imported our permission file. Now we have to mark this permission file into permission classes. So permission dot update on blog. Okay, and it will be tuple. So we are going to write the comma. Let's go back to browser and try to access this. Okay, why still we can see these objects? Yeah, hello.
Sir.
Yeah, Pooja, hello.
हाय सर, नॉट पूजा सर, हम रेशमा सर लोग का एक 9:30 बजे क्लास है। सो पूजा मैम ने बोली कि आप कब तक क्लास कंप्लीट होगा आपका?
मुझे 10-15 मिनट लग जाएंगे।
बट सर 9:30 का एक्चुअल क्लास 9:30 से स्टार्ट होगा एंड सर अभी तो मिड हो गया है, तो आप
एक्चुअली में अगर आप वेट कर सकते हैं तो अच्छी बात है, क्योंकि ये आज इनका लास्ट सेशन है, तो मुझे ये टॉपिक आज कवर ही करना है। हेलो, just a moment guys, let me have a word with the Pooja ma'am. Okay, guys, what we will do, we'll shift to the Skype for this particular session. So I'm going to share a link with you. Please quickly join it. Okay. Okay, guys, please join it as quickly as possible. Roshan, please join the session. Those who join through the Skype, please leave the Zoom session. Cypher, please leave the Zoom session. Just wait, it will be recorded. Cypher, can you hear me? You accidentally leave the same session. Hello, Cypher.